Welcome, everybody, to the Outscaper Podcast, episode 2. So we're still in the phase of, if this was a TV show, I think the first episode, I was like, this is the first episode to see if this TV station is going to keep us. We're still kind of in that phase. But I'm
We're in the
here
pilot
with
phase.
Exactly. So we're past the pilot phase, but we're still seeing if people are going to like this or not. But so we're here with Rick and Ricky, from Maine Outdoor Spaces in Maine. And so why don't you guys start off, kick us off with just telling us a little bit about what Maine Outdoor Spaces does, how you got started, all that.
Sure. I'll start, and then Ricky has been there since the beginning, but he was kind of little way back. So we're obviously in Maine. We focus totally on design and installation, whether that is hardscapes. It's usually all encompassing. A lot of our projects are, we come in and do patios, retaining walls, sometimes outdoor kitchens, fire pits, fireplaces, and plantings. We just pretty much work our way out and leave the place turnkey at that point. But that's our focus, and we have a lot of fun with it. We started long time ago. I moved to Maine. Ricky was, I think 3 or 2 when we actually moved here from New Jersey. Back in the year 2000. He would have been 2 because it was February of 2000 that we moved up here and started a company back then. It was different. It was focused on maintenance and primarily back then. And then not too long ago, like 5-6 years ago, we just had a little upheaval in terms of a divorce, and we just decided to change the name of the company just to reflect more of what we do. It was a marketing decision for that. So we became Maine Outdoor Spaces in, I think it was March of 2021 officially. And we have been cranking ever since.
How was that that rebranding time? How did you think through that? Did you just kind of pull the trigger and change your name, or did you kind of treat it like it was a kind of a new startup?
More or less pulled the trigger, and because we had all the same contacts, obviously, and we're working with the same people. We just decided it was a good time to just change the name and just start the rebranding process, which we really haven't marketed until recently with this company called Tecton Growth that has been helping us quite a bit. Yeah. And I expect a hat, by the way.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So, or a shirt. I could have worn yours.
I know, right? Yeah.
So, we just we were primarily word of mouth, and it was enough, but not enough. We were getting nice quality projects and all that, but it was solid. But once we started with you guys, honestly, with getting the website up and going and all that, we've got a lot of good leads coming that I don't even have to work for, essentially. So that's probably how it is. With the word of mouth model, I'll call it. I had to do a lot of networking and boots on the ground hustling, which is not a bad thing. We still do that a lot. But it's now working in tandem with a good website that is optimized, as you guys do. We're still getting a bunch of calls now, and we're booking, easily probably May, June of next year, if not beyond. But I don't have everything dialed in yet on that front.
And right now we're in November, and you guys are in Maine. So you kind of shut down for the winter, right?
We do not.
Okay,
We keep going because we tent our stonework. We do a lot
that's
of
right.
stonework, so we'll build tents and heat them. We do interior fireplaces, so we love to do those at this time of year. But we do a lot of stone veneer as well. We spent all last year on a big veneer project. The only thing we didn't, we had a chimney, a tall chimney we had to do. We hustled and got that done by about this time last year, and then another close to I don't know 800 square feet of a foundation um, veneer to do, and an interior chimney on the same project. So projects like that we love because it's relatively easy and um, not hard to build tents and heat them and all that. But yeah, we don't plow. That was a conscious decision. Although Ricky has expressed he would love to start plowing again, and I am, as long as I don't have to be on call for
Like as long
when
as you don't have to
something
wake up.
breaks. Exactly. I'm all in. Um, but
You'll go out and
um,
collect the checks. That's
exactly,
all. Yeah.
exactly. So um, so we basically the fall, and I start back in like August. Really start as work comes in. I start to look at them and cherry pick and say, okay, this will be a good one for winter. So I kind of schedule it that way, and um, you know, take pretty much August, mid August through now, sometimes filling up the winter schedule, because I have to be more selective, and then everything else, like we've been booked through the end of the year at this point, probably. I don't even know when that we were booked out, but um, we once that we were booked out till January, um, all new work then goes to spring, and we've already got a lot of big stuff coming for next spring, so I'm excited about that.
Nice. And all that stuff's
So
coming from like your website and stuff.
yeah, so we right now, typically at this time of year, I've had a few good sized projects come from a local builder that we do a lot of work with, but they're just in between and not
Mm,
ready to send anything to us. They're maybe
mm,
just breaking ground or whatever the case may be. So without any of their referral work yet, it'll come. But without any of that, we're already booked. So we've seen
nice.
a huge uptick, mostly in website requests that come
Mm,
in. Um, and then I know we've been running a little bit of Google ads with you guys.
mm,
Um, and we've gotten a bunch of phone calls too. And, you know, we take it from there.
awesome. How was it? So like working with us was your first kind of like marketing, like taking your
Actu-
marketing serious, right?
Actual marketing. Yeah. We
Actual
had, we
marketing,
had
yeah.
somebody else who built out a website for us, and it was, it was okay. We got some hits on it, but, nothing like where we're at now.
Right. How was your like mindset wise? Like I guess you when we, we've met, we've talked a little bit before we were working together. Well, yeah, where did we meet? We met at the Synced Up
Jim,
Summit, right?
Nope, Jim's,
No, Jim's group. That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah, so you already had, so was there ever a point when you think you had like your mindset in regards to marketing was like, "No, I'm just gonna do good work and the word of mouth will just come. I don't need to like spend money on other things."
Yeah, I mean, it was there. I was definitely fortunate, but if I wanted to grow,
Right.
we needed to market for sure.
What would you say to somebody in that position right now who's like for you, like how did you justify for yourself or how did you handle it yourself knowing that okay, I'd like to grow, I need to market, but like how do I justify these funds, right? Um,
Um, well, so what I would say is that I probably spent 20 years hustling, and I only gotten to a certain point, and there's a lot of spinning wheels, a lot of all that kind of stuff, just making mistakes, learning from them, and moving forward in that process. So, um, if I had definitely if I had advertised, the work would have I would have had a lot more work. But I would the only thing I would caution is make sure you're ready to handle the work, because you want to set up, and this is where I'll bring Ricky into the conversation. Um, you have to be set up on the back end to be able to manage the work, and our niche is kind of high end. So you've got to be able to present a certain way, as well as manage larger jobs, and those clients, their expectations, not just in quality, because that should be a given, whether it's a high end client or a small client, whatever. But their expectation in their experience with your company is, that's where something like that comes into play. And Ricky, I just came in this, what was it, March, I think. And he was, like I said, he was with me in a plow truck when he was 6, sleeping overnight, just riding along. So he's been
Shoveling.
through it. Huh? What,
Said
Rick?
shoveling. I wasn't just sleeping. I was getting kicked out of the truck into the cold. I'll always remember it.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, if I didn't say before, Rick and Ricky are father son, so there's a great dynamic that we'll start to
Yeah.
see now.
I don't know. I don't remember the cold. It was pretty warm where my butt was planted that night. Just saying.
That's funny.
But
Yeah.
so he's seen the whole thing, through different lenses. But then he went into the Army and spent 4 years in Ranger Regiment, and they learned a lot of good good discipline, I would say, that he is bringing here. So I'll let you can expand on, but he's operations manager, so he's putting
right.
all
I
the
was going to say systems, operations.
Yeah,
that's amazing, because I'm sure, Rick, you're like me. You're visionary. You're great at like future planning, and here's what I want to do, and here's where I think here's big steps that we could take to get there. But all the little steps on how to make that work, I'm just like, I'm terrible at that.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you are too. So
again, I'm just gonna I'll let Ricky explain because he could probably rip me apart right now.
Yes. Yeah. So Ricky, yeah. So I guess tell us, kind of from your viewpoint, I guess starting out and now what your role is, moving forward.
Yeah. So I've grown up kind of in this company, whether it was Maine Outdoor Spaces or the previous name. So I've done everything from picking weeds at customers' houses just kind of for fun as a little kid to, working on an install crew, shoveling, plowing, and then, went away for a little while I was in the Army, and learned a lot of valuable stuff about planning, about systems, and how having a good plan going into something really makes all the difference in the execution. And we're trying to apply that a little bit more, and setting up a really good pre-construction planning process here. It's kind of what I've been calling it, and just making sure that, instead of planning a project out and showing up and then kind of taking things as they come, is we can plan for most of the issues that pop up. Because on most projects, I'm sure anyone who's done it for a while could name off all the things that are going to go wrong during the course of a project. If instead you make a plan and you list them out and say, all right, well, when this happens, how can I mitigate that? Or how can I right now, before we even start, make sure that, the guys don't run short on materials on this day, because I know what they're going to need. So we've kind of worked through that and worked through how we can make a really good plan going in, and then just put out small fires instead of dealing with a whole project shutting down or major delays throughout the project.
Nice. How does that look like, like Jim and I, or Rick and I were in a coaching group, and it's talking all about systems and stuff like that. And like, as, owner builders really is what we were. Like, we know we have to do those things, right? But we don't have time to, or we're so bad. Like, it overwhelms me to think about what it takes for you, Ricky, to do that. Like, sit down and think through all that. Like, that's just not what I want to do.
Yeah.
So, obviously it's what you're good at. And so is the answer to people listening who are maybe like Rick and I is to find someone like you?
I mean, I really don't think so. I've never been a very organized person. It's not really in my nature to be super organized and
Wait,
plan
what?
ahead.
Rick's like,
And
what?
That's what you're hired for.
I learned how to do it, but I
Yeah.
think anyone can kind of learn it, and by just kind of breaking things down into more of a step by step process, and it's hard to do while you're actually doing the job. If you're on site
Yeah.
doing installs, it's hard to write down while you're doing it. Oh, well, what did I do today exactly? And even for us, like during the busy season, it was pretty hard to make processes and implement them while we were slammed through like the late spring and summer. And now that things are slowing down, we're starting to be able to get back into it. But what I found made the biggest difference, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but what I found made the biggest difference was just phasing our projects, right? So we have the kind of the sales phase, and then goes into our pre-construction start. So we're for us, we design, or if you're subbing out a design, we have the design phase, and that's working with the customer to get the drawing down and make sure it's what they like, and go through material selections. And then once they approve our design, we estimate it and give them the bid or the budget for the project. And that's where the biggest change, I think the biggest positive we had was, before we were just going from design to estimate to letting a crew go build it. And now I've kind of put in design, estimate, and I've added planning to that. So I take the estimate and I break it down into a document, a project plan. Basically, it says, all right, here's from day one to when we leave the site, roughly how it's going to go. Breaking it down into phases, even more granular than that. But through the project, all right, well, we're digging out base, and we're putting it in stone for the next 3 days. So I know first 3 days they're going to need stone, an excavator, and a way to get everything out of there. And after that third day, they're going to need pavers. And after that day, they're going to need plants. So by phasing it out and planning it like that, now we're ordering materials ahead. They're getting there a day early or morning of, and we're not waiting on stuff. The guys aren't calling and saying, hey, we're ready for pavers. And now, maybe the supplier is a half an hour from the job, so now we're stopped for an hour, someone's driving back and forth. So by phasing it like that and not moving on until you have a good plan, I think that's kind of made the biggest difference. And that was pretty quick and easy for us to set up this spring.
How
I'll say, like, for me, again, Nick, you're spot on. This is not in my wheelhouse, or in any way really enjoyable to me. But I think so. Last season we had a very good season, but every single thing ran through me, and I was exhausted. I mean, I was basically keeping it together with duct tape, trying to keep everybody on track and track everything, figure everything out. This year, spring was very painful, only because Ricky's trying to extract my all, like, 30 plus years of knowledge and experience, extract it from my head, put it into SOPs, and he was throwing a lot of that at me in the middle of spring. And I'd get a text from the this is a very simple thing in terms of systems. I get a text from a crew, hey, X, Y, and Z's happened, and my reaction is, okay, I'm going to handle it. Jump in a car or a truck and go handle it, which is not what my role should be. Number one. Number two, we are working on giving them the system and tools to work through it, so that they can solve the problems on their own, with minimal questions for us. So that enables me to go and sell and design and all that stuff. And Ricky's pretty much handling now all material orders, and making sure they're pulled, ready to go at the supplier. So if we're going to pick them up with one of our trucks, or we're going to have them delivered, they're ready to go. There's not a hiccup. And yeah, it's taken all year, kind of flying by the seat of our pants at times, but it is now coming together. I feel better about it because I'm able to let go, and all that.
Rick, do you think, like thinking back, obviously you wished you probably had made this move sooner.
Oh, without question. Without question. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I knew all that needed to be done. I could rattle it
Mm.
off and
Yeah.
say, this is, if somebody asked me and said, hey, what should I do? I would tell them, this is what you should do. I'm not doing it, but
Yeah.
don't look at me. Just go do it and trust me, it'll be better. Um, but it was, you know, you sometimes as a business owner and with a family and everything, you get on a little bit of a hamster wheel and you're just hustling because you have bills to pay, mouths to feed, and all that stuff. So, um, there was no time for me to stop and put together an SOP for, you know, all right, so if I'm going to do a design, we're going to start with this. I got to make a checklist that I'm going to have X, Y, and Z included in this. It was, I'm going to throw this design together, get to the customer, present it, and do the best I can, and see where we land. And then with the guys, I wasn't even doing drawings half the time, so I'd show up on a job site and just paint it out and say, all right, guys, go for it. And that created there was a lot of hiccups there because they would forget what we went over 3 days ago. You know, now we've got it so they can, we use JobTread, to kind of run everything, and we can upload the design right into JobTread. They can go on their phone with measurements on the design and all that good stuff. For the most part, we're not fully there yet. But another thing Ricky has put into place, which might sound simple to a lot of guys, but basic job packs with
Hmm.
lists of uh, the local, like we work in a pretty broad geographical area, so there's different suppliers for like crushed stone and um, pavers and sand and all that stuff. So in our job pack now, we tell them where to go instead of driving all the way back to the one closest to the shop, but maybe furthest from the job. There's places local that they can go. And that one simple thing is off my plate. I don't have to worry about, oh, I forgot to tell them to go here versus there. Hopefully they figure it out, you know? So, so the value add for Ricky, or obviously he's my guy, but for somebody else to get somebody, if that's not your strength, hire for it. Hire your weaknesses, I would say, and
Yeah.
get it done.
At what point do you think your like business was set up to be able to, like, at what point would you, like, if you had to go back and hire him sooner and you feel like your business was set up to be able to handle that position, where was that at, maybe revenue and guy wise?
Um, I would say at roughly $500,000, you're probably going to be stretched. You'll be stretched a little bit at that number,
Yeah.
but if you can make it work, you'll want to um you'll want to start laying that foundation.
Mhm.
Even if you bring in somebody who's consults with you and helps you just do that, so you're not necessarily hiring somebody full time year round, but you get somebody to come in and help you implement those systems
Yeah.
if you're not good at it. Get it done early, and that's what has held me back, is not having systems. So then you can't grow. You really can't grow efficiently. It becomes chaotic. And like I said, last year we did a little over 1 million, and it was um it was all that I could do to keep it going, just without any major hiccups. So it worked, but as a business owner, it certainly wasn't enjoyable. It was stressful.
Yeah. At that point, did you have a pretty good, like, do you have like a foreman type guy who you could kind of like leave on the job site to manage the
Yes,
crew at
100
that point?
100%. I actually
Okay.
had
Yeah.
two really good guys that
Nice.
I could leave on job sites and not, you know, they covered my butt a bunch of times and were like, "Hey, we're going to need this." And then as as Ricky was coming on, he and I obviously were talking prior to when he got out of the army and stepped in with me. Um and I started telling the guys, give me a couple days lead time, as opposed to, you know, I need it immediately and I'm an hour
Yeah.
away. There's no way I'm getting it there. So that's been, in and of itself, that's been huge. And I'll let Ricky talk about JobTread and how that has helped. And honestly, all of this is so important because once you start, running the website and optimizing and everything that you do for us, you're going to get blown up and it's going to hurt your reputation. So you have to be able to handle it.
Yeah.
So Rick, why
Yeah.
don't you
Exactly.
can talk about the daily logs and how that's helping and all that.
Yeah, so JobTread is what we use for. It's kind of an all-encompassing software that lets you run kind of a CRM all the way through project management software, as well as you can do a lot through it. It's pretty powerful. What I kind of interface most with in the day to day is the project management portion of it. And what one of the features, I think probably the most impactful feature that we've used so far in that part of it is it's called the daily log. And you don't need JobTread for this, obviously. It's nice to have because it kind of tracks through a project. But if you were on a budget, or if you weren't ready to take on something like JobTread, you could easily put together a Google form that you send your guys a link every day and they fill it out, and then you have all the info there. But what the daily log does, they do it at the end of the day before they leave the job site, and they put together notes on, here's what we did today, here's the progress we made, is there anything holding us back that is going to be an issue? That way you can get ahead and solve it before they're holed up tomorrow. um, and then material requests, equipment requests that they're going to need, if they need, they're going to need to rent something we weren't expecting, or if they broke a shovel and we need to get them a new one for the next day. That allows me to take a look at that at the end of each day, and then hopefully it's at least a day in between needing it. But even then, if it's in before all our suppliers close, I can call it in at the end of the day and have it ready for the next morning, and they can just grab it on the way to the site and pick it up, instead of we meeting at the shop in the morning and then, all right, well, we got to go wait for the supplier to open and call them. It just lets us get ahead of things. And they're also able to upload a couple photos of their progress. So now, you can go into the job and you can scroll down all the daily logs and see from day zero to complete, kind of how we progress through the job, and gives us just a really good documented timeline of the project, issues, materials we needed. So now that's something we can go look back over and say, all right, you know, 2/3 of our jobs were delayed because of material issues. And now we can diagnose that and say, all right, well, why? And we can, you can my dad can tell you, I ask why probably 300 times a day, but it's, it's part of just process improvement. You have to ask why, and you have to get to the bottom, the root cause of the issue. And once you
Mhm.
get to that, you can solve it. And, material issue. All right. Why? Well, they needed this. Why don't we know? And you just keep working that down to the issue and you solve it. And it's pretty daunting at first because there's 70 different rabbit holes you can go down.
Mhm.
But if you just pick one, and it's usually obvious which one it is because it's the biggest one and it's burning a hole in your pocket probably.
Mhm.
Um, and you just fix that one, and you just kind of one by one just go through and do it and make small incremental change, and then all of a sudden, things are looking completely different.
Right. Yeah. It's like a lot of it's just being intentional, right? Having that
Absolutely.
intentionality, which is really hard for somebody in a position, like both you and I have been in, Rick, where like
Yeah.
we don't have the time to do those things. But
Yeah.
we know how important they are. Um and so like my first hire was an account was a like an office admin. So she helped with a lot of the like taking client calls,
Hmm.
sending estimates, doing the ordering. Like that was a lot of help that I needed. But like after knowing more what I know now, I'm like I probably wished my first hire might have been someone with a more operational mindset who could help and build systems. Because
Yeah.
that could have taken us like having the office admin was great. It took a lot off my plate, but it didn't do much to really like build the foundation of the business that we could then
Right.
grow from.
And that,
As we grew, we still had cracks where a system could have fixed it.
yeah. And that's exactly our approach. Like Ricky, he put it to me early on how, like, when they're training to whatever for whatever they're doing, there's step by step by step. You don't You don't
Mhm.
advance further until you have cleared whatever step you're supposed to clear. And so he's taking that experience from, something that is, in reality, it's like it could be a life or death thing.
Mhm.
Um, and bringing that into, which obviously we're not life or death, but um, it's I think intentional is a great word. And we both had to be very intentional. Ricky had to be very intentional to be patient, because his why, and I'm looking at him like, what do you mean why? It's because I needed to do it. And he's like,
That's because I said so.
like, I mean, yeah, it wasn't even like that. It was just more like, if I'd get that phone call and I'd just go handle it, and he'd be like, well, why'd you do that? And I'm like, because it needed to be handled. The guys were going to be standing around doing nothing if we didn't get it handled, and I had to handle it, and blah, blah, blah. And it's that chaos that absolutely held me back,
Mhm.
and you're going to get to a point to where you're just not going to be able to get ahead of it. And then you're on that nonstop hamster wheel.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And that being, I think awareness too is probably the first bit. Like, I think we're aware of the chaos, right? And we're on the hamster wheel and we're aware of it. So, but I think a lot of guys aren't. Uh, I think there was a period of time where I didn't think I was, or I wasn't aware that I was, but then I got to the point where I was so stressed out. I'm like, oh man, something's got to change. And I went to a Facebook page and was like, guys, I need help. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and
right.
then Jim Wirtz got recommended to me,
Yep.
and that's where we met. And so then he took, then he really made me hyper aware of all the things that I needed to do. And at first it was kind of like, dang it, I already had a bunch of stuff that I knew I needed to do that I wasn't doing. And now he just gave me even more.
That is exactly spring. That's exactly what
Yeah.
happened in the spring. Is like Ricky just started pelting me with all these different things, and it's, spring was crazy. So
Yep.
probably until July, give or take, I think I think Ricky was like, should I even be working here? Because my dad's a little crazy. And
Yeah.
but it has come together, and we're not done yet by any stretch. We're
Mhm.
really working on these systems, and hope to have them, I'd say, everything somewhat in place by spring. But there's not only the component of getting me to buy in and change my habits, but also we have to train up our guys, because a few, like one of my guys has been with me, I think, since 2014, 2015. He's seen it all, and he's probably like, okay, let's see if this even works.
Yeah.
Um, so we've got to. It's easy because we can. Any new guys that come in, it's like, okay, this is how we do it, and they're
Yeah.
easy. But we've got to get not only buy-in, but get them,
Mhm.
the older guys, into the habit of, here's what we're doing, here's why, and they're not pushing back. It's really not a problem. But um, I think that's like the next phase, really, is now getting full buy-in from the crew,
Yeah.
and having them trained, and so they understand the why, and they understand the big picture why. But like Ricky said, if we go granular on them and just really explain, all right, if we do this, this is going to improve this, which is going to improve your work life, and
Yeah.
and they'll get that.
Yeah. And that, it's the same on, the owner's end too. Like, you have to do these things. And I think, but we put it off because we're so overwhelmed and make excuses and whatever. But like, you have to come to the point where you're so fed up with the hamster wheel, right?
Yes.
That you, no matter what, whether it's more time, it's just a season that you need to commit and be intentional at doing something, whether it's hiring. Like, guys don't like to hire. All of a sudden someone, they're not intentional with hiring. That's something Jim told us all the time. Like,
Yep.
have your bench filled, right? So
Yep.
whether it's hiring, whether it's marketing, so that like having more work there so you can increase your prices, like that's a lever that you can pull if you're stressed out because it just feels like you have to go job after job. um get more work and increase your prices so you have more profit, and now you don't feel like maybe you could take a week off every month
Now
because
you're
you get enough
breathing.
money,
Yeah. There's
and
oxygen.
then, yeah, right, there's oxygen, and then it frees you up to be able to go and spend the intentional time it's going to take to really work on a system or find the right person.
Right.
But like, the future that we want as business owners, the future that we want the path to that future is through the tasks that we keep putting off that we don't want to do.
That's well
Right.
said right there. That
Alex
is well
Harmozy
said.
puts it a different way. I can't remember how he put it, but it's like, it's that 10% we're not doing that's holding us back from being who we want to be in the business, in our life.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to look fitter, well, go work out. Well, I don't have
Right.
time. I want to, it's too hard, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's all those excuses that we keep
Thanks for
telling
calling me
ourselves.
out on that now.
You look good, dude.
Yeah, see that,
You
Rick?
look trim.
I'm good. It's not like he puts me down or anything. Don't worry. I'm okay.
No, good. That's good. That's good. Nice. So let's finish off on this then. So the family dynamic and how you guys did it start well? Did you do it right? Because I worked with family and I was very intense, because everybody says, like, don't work with family, don't work with friends and family, because it'll all just go bad. And I think it can go well if the expectations are set, right? And then it takes two to tango. So both people have to understand the expectations and live within those expectations, right?
Right.
So how are you
I'll
guys
start,
doing
and
that?
then Ricky, you can go ahead and give your 2 cents. Maybe 1 cent, depending upon how far you go. I think, again, the word intentional comes up. We have to be intentional about how we our dynamic, because he went away, and Ricky, when he worked for me, it was primarily high school, college, even middle school a little bit, and so that's a totally different dynamic there, and father son. And I remember, and he was right, which that pains me to say, but there's one time where I blew up on him, probably not fully necessary, but that was in front of like a bunch of other people on the job, and he was in a little bit of a leadership position. So I let that dynamic kind of do that, and then he said, "You can't yell at me in front of people," and he was right. So now I think we're in a really good spot now. In the spring, it was like it was like he was nagging me all the time, and I wasn't taking it well. And it wasn't like a power thing, because I can totally, personally, I can totally just say, okay, I want you to handle this, and I don't have any interest in doing that job. So that's your job, go for it. And I give him a lot of freedom on that front. He runs everything by me. I'm like, yeah, just do it. But in the spring, I had to be careful not to be like, will you shut your mouth and leave me alone? Or something like that, because I'm in the middle of, I've got a design. I'm getting texts on my phone, and he's coming in like, well, why'd you go and run that bag of poly sand out? Why'd you do it that way? And I'm like at wit's end to begin with. And then he drops that at me. And I'm like, because I had to do it. Now leave me alone, or whatever, So it's been a learning curve for me, but it's growth for sure on my end. And it's definitely going to allow me to allow the company to grow at the end of the day. So anyway,
like a willingness to not be afraid to be wrong.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
And I'm not at all. Typically, I'm not. I would rather.
You're not
be
wrong at all. Ever.
No, exactly. And I just want that out there, Ricky. Just remember that. But I'm not. If you're afraid to be wrong, you're going to hold yourself back. Be wrong, learn from it, grow from it, and move forward. Don't dwell on it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Because hopefully you're gonna get better from being wrong.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm sure you guys talked about, like, when you brought Ricky on, I'm sure you guys talked about, like, what is the goal, right? Like, what are we going after? Like, where do we want the, like, vision, right, for the company?
I mean, Ricky actually pushed me on that a little bit, and had me write it out, and now we've kind of put it into a plan. Ricky, you can explain what I think it's 1, 3, and 10 years. And so that way that gives us the opportunity to build out a system to achieve those milestones that we've set. So, but Rick, you can expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to like I said earlier, if you have a plan and have at least an end goal with like hard set. The key is it sounds kind of hokey because you learn it, but smart goal setting and having measurable goals with a time constraint that are realistic, and saying, all right, in a year, here's where I'm going to be. This, these are the numbers I'm going to hit. This is how many jobs I'm going to do. This is how many leads I'm going to have coming in, whatever it might be. If you have that, and if you don't even make a plan after that, which you should, because it's very easy to backwards plan and break that down into, okay, well, here are the milestones that I need to hit to achieve that. And then, all right, well, here's each task now I need to do to hit each milestone. That way you can see, all right, well, I'm on track, I'm lagging behind, I'm way ahead. But if you have nothing else, if you have a goal with measurable outcomes, you can at least use that to make a decision and say, well, does this decision serve that goal? And if it doesn't, then just don't do it, or make another look at it to say, can I use how am I going to get there, basically? And without going into it with a vision and goals tied to that vision that say, in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years, it's hard to plan the day to day and to say, all right, well, how many projects do I need? Am I going to take this? Am I going to take this big project that might take 4 months and tie up my crew, my equipment, and my money buying materials, or am I going to take this quick hit project that's going to get cash flowing in, but maybe that's not going to feed where I want to be, because doing a smaller patio isn't going to market to the market I want to be in, right? So I think having the vision and the goals is really one of the most important things, and you can plan off of that with your marketing, with your sales, with how you even set up your culture, right? And you give your guys a goal to work towards too. And then everyone's moving in the same direction and rowing the boat in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that too. And then having that goal and the vision that you've both agreed to, right? Now the conversations, as father son, turn less about like what I want or what you want personally. It's more about what we've already agreed and what we both want to go after. And you might see that path. You each might see the path being differently, but now it's just a different conversation. There's less emotions. It's like, hey, let's be a team. What's the best play that we need to run now to reach the end zone, right?
Good analogy right there.
Right, because you see the end zone. You're both going after the same end zone. And
Right.
so I think probably having that, right, having that understanding together helps with the conversations back and forth. Like Rick, you might say, well, I think we should do this. And Ricky might goes, well, I think we should do this. And now because you have the same end goal in mind, those conversations can be had a little bit easier, as opposed
Right.
to if you didn't have that end goal in mind, Rick, you're just like, well, I just want it done this way, because in the back of your head, you have a different end goal than Ricky has a different end goal. And neither of your plays might be wrong, or neither of your plays are essentially wrong. They might be both right because of the end goals that you have. But if you're not going towards the same goal, um,
And it's absolutely an easier conversation to have, because again, I don't care if I'm wrong. If he makes a good point, it's like, all right, let's do that.
mhm,
I don't care. I don't have to be right. I want to win, essentially.
mhm,
You know,
yeah,
and that's my mindset. You know, it's
mhm,
like, again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But as long as we're still going towards that goal,
yeah,
and without a defined goal, like you just said, then you really don't know where you're going. You think
right,
you do because you think, all right, I just want to make more money. That's great, but there's so much more that goes into this than, sales are oxygen without question. Just, sell as much as you can. Um, but at some point you're going to outsell yourself, and then you're going to take some hits because you're going to have some unhappy clients. And I speak from experience. Like if you're oversold, and understaffed, or you can't manage the work, you're going to take a hit, and it's going to add stress to your life. It's going to, you're going to make decisions from a different perspective that may not be what you need them to be. Um, you know, but I guess that's my biggest plug here in terms of marketing, which is awesome, but you have to be able to handle the work, because getting to work is not difficult at all. Having to work, getting work is not that hard. Managing the work, showing up and doing it is where it hurts, or could potentially hurt. At least that's my experience, and then you hit a point to where if you really want to grow, that's when you're going to have to invest in marketing, and it's not cheap, but it's valuable.
Mhm.
So I guess that's what I would say is there's a lot of value, and some people may look at a monthly fee and be like, man, how am I supposed to do that? But if you do it, it pays off
Mhm.
without question.
Yep. Over time, right?
Yes. Yeah. And we have those meetings where it's like, wow, look at how your coverage has changed. You know how,
Mhm.
with Nick, I'll explain it real quick. He pulls up a map and he kind of shows where our company ranks in a geographical area in terms of and organically where we rank for our various keywords. And we can start to see over time how, we might have been like seventh or eighth in a certain area. Now we're one, two, or three in a good bit of our area, just for certain searches. And I've definitely have seen the uptick in website requests and phone calls, even at this time of year when things slow down a little bit from that perspective. Um, they're still coming in.
Awesome. Where are you guys at this year in regards to revenue wise
Um, we
compared to
are going to
last?
be. What's that?
I guess compared to last year.
We're probably we're gonna be a little bit more. We didn't. We. I feel like we held a little bit in terms of
Uh-huh.
overall sales. We definitely are growing in sales, but um, we had just the whole process of bringing Ricky in, me just completely changing the whole back end. It kind of
Mhm.
changed a lot. Um, it sucked up a lot of energy for, I'd say, half the year.
Mhm.
Um, but now, like we were just talking about, like we're pretty well booked out for the winter, and I'm like, we're gonna be crushed in the spring. Like now, we're
Mhm.
now poised to take a big leap
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. That's
Um,
good.
so yeah, and a lot of that is like really, I'd say midsummer on, from when we really started going with the website, getting it dialed in and everything. And that is it. So it takes that much time sometimes. Like building your
Mhm.
website isn't a quick hit. It's not like, okay, I'm going to get a job tomorrow. You might, but
Mhm.
it's like we probably had it dialed in by midsummer, I guess,
Mhm.
with you guys. And now we're like, now the fruits of all that are really going to start
Yeah.
showing up in the spring and next summer and next year and beyond.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is good that you have Ricky now and you're working on systems because this spring is
Yeah.
going to be, I mean, you're good. You would be
We
quitting
wouldn't be, I wouldn't
probably.
be able to handle more
Yeah.
than I would have, and
Yeah.
now we know we're going to have, um, our plan is 2 full install crews, a masonry crew, and probably an excavation base crew,
Nice.
to support everything. Um, so we know that's where we're going. We're starting to put everything in place so we can even start looking at hires, hiring guys, bringing them in, getting that all lined up so we can just hit the ground running come spring. And then at that point it's on me to sell,
Yep.
which is, and I don't have to worry about the day-to-day stuff. I just need to fill the funnel and keep the ball rolling.
Yep. Nice. Last question. Let's think back 5 years ago, Rick. What would you tell yourself today? Or what would you tell yourself, knowing what you know today, what would you tell you 5 years ago? And then, Ricky, what would you tell your dad 5 years ago as well? Like who he was, where he was in the business, knowing what you know now, where you guys want to go. What is that nugget that you wished you knew then that you know now?
Um, So I'm going to do a little Jesus plug and say lean in to God first,
Amen.
because that faith, having that faith back then, because I was coming out 5 years ago ish. I was coming out of a divorce, and it kind of just flipped some things upside down. Just, it's a big major life change after
Yep.
22 years. It changed a lot. So lean into faith if you have it, and if you don't, I'd recommend you get it. And Nick could probably help you with that. But lean into that, and then from a business perspective, I would say get your systems, do it, like commit to doing it, and get that website up. Just start to get recognized and known. Letter up your trucks, get those job site signs. You can do simple stuff, right? You don't have to have the biggest, best website to just get off the ground. You need to just get job site signs, letter your trucks, trailers, whatever it is, even if it's like a magnetic sign, get something there so people see your name. And then do what you say you're going to do, because if you don't, you're going to go backwards.
So be intentional. Don't let the hamster wheel control you. Be intentional.
Yes. 100%.
Whether it's one little thing, like you're not trying to systemize your whole business. You're not trying to be a multi-million-dollar company tomorrow. You're just trying to take one step.
Exactly. And I would just say, if you're going to eat an elephant, you're not going to do it in one bite. You're going to take
one bite at a time.
A million little bites to get there.
Yep.
So just keep chewing.
Nice. Ricky?
Yeah, I'd say my advice would probably be two things. Is one, plan, and then two, once you make a plan, and this is kind of more looking at it like a project, but don't be afraid to delegate, because if you have a crew leader who's been doing it, or a foreman, whatever you want to call him, who's been doing it a while, he knows what he's doing. And if your business has been running for a number of years, all the systems are there because something has to happen, right? Whether it's written down on paper, whether it's in your head, systems happen every single day. So you don't need to stress about writing every single one down right away, but make a plan, and then once it's ready to hand off, don't be afraid to delegate and let go and let somebody else do it. Because with a proper plan, and then with you getting out of their hair and not affecting their process, as long as it works, and obviously quality control still matters, and checking in and making sure this is a product we want to turn out, but just let the subject matter expert do their job.
Awesome. Good stuff. Awesome, guys. Well, thank
you
very much.
Why didn't you tell me that 5 years ago?
Right. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Great stuff. If anyone is listening and would want to reach out and ask you a question about, your dynamic or how to find an operations manager, is that something that they could do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Yep. And they'd find you on Facebook, or just go to your website?
Go to a website. It's actually a nice one. So when you're ready to build one, I know a guy.
It is a nice website.
His name is Nick.
Yeah, it is a nice website.
But
cool.
Yeah, just go to our website. You can, or you can email me, Rick at MaineOutdoorSpaces.com, or you can email Ricky if you have questions for him at Ricky at MaineOutdoorSpaces.com.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll put the website down in the show notes here, and that's actually a link that's great for SEO. So I'm actually working for you right now. So
yeah, I love
That'll be great.
Nick never stops.
Awesome. Yep, exactly. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us in episode 2, and be on the lookout for the next one.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.